I've seen it happening in Cardiff. When I used to work in Roath, like City Road area, I used to sit in my van and because I used to work all around there, and I used to watch them outside the shops. They hang around outside the shops all the time, and they're talking to like 14-year-old girls outside the shops and petting their dogs and all the rest of it. And I've had people messaging me saying this takeaway is giving free chips to the kids and all that. And like in Swansea, when there was an organisation called the DFLA, and there was a lot of football lads that go into protests and stuff, and they were keeping surveillance on some of the shops in Swansea, right? And they gave a load of evidence to the police, and eventually the police basically told them to stop doing it, to stop spying.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because they were saying, "Oh, this is the number plates. This is what these girls are going in and out of shops and all that sort of thing." Then they ended up being warned, "Stop what you're doing," because it's racial hatred. You know what I mean? So they're not interested. They're not interested because they know it'll open a massive can of worms.
And you want to stir up a recipe for more quote-unquote racial hatred, tell the people that are trying to protect children from these kinds of things when they know what's going on and they've seen patterns of it in other areas of the country, tell them to stop doing that, to stop protecting the children, because they know that the government and the police won't do it because they might be stirring up racial hatred or whatever. That's a perfect recipe for stirring up actual racial hatred, the way that I see it. And it's just, again, people are having to feel, or people are now seeing that they kind of have to take this into their own hands. They have to kind of do like their own surveillance or get together in their own groups and all of these things. I keep going out of focus. This is doing my absolute head in. Because they know that the police won't do anything. There's a really good case where the police didn't do anything. It was the case of Ian Watkins, prolific paedophile, prolific Welsh paedophile, ex-lead singer of Lost Prophets, recently got stabbed to death in prison. And also Peter and Avril Griffiths as well. We've seen that the police are not only often just not willing to do anything, in many ways they're outright facilitating it, or worst case scenarios we've seen recently, potentially even involved in it, which is just a really disgusting thought.
What you were on about there, that couple from Barry, I knew them, right? I used to go, I don't drink now. I haven't drunk for about 5 years, right? But years ago, when they were actively doing that, we used to go to a pub called Bindle in Barry, right? And it's been knocked down now, right? But they were over there all the time. And one night, me and my mates, they invited us to a party on a boat. But we didn't go to it because they were weirdos. Yeah, they were weirdos anyway. So they were like, "Oh, we're having a party on this boat down the docks." And we were like, "Nah, you're all right." You know what I mean? And then years later, they found out that they were nonsense kids down there. You know?
And allegedly, according to some of the news articles, go on. Oh, go on. Sorry, no, I interrupted you. I do apologize.
No, it's all right. I was just saying, they were actively doing that in front of everybody, and nobody really knew about it. But I mean, people must have known, because I can remember people going to the parties. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they were little parties with only a few people there. They were in the pub saying, "Come on, you know what I mean? We're having a party," and it was just like they were doing it in plain sight,
Yeah, and you mentioned as well that the boat party, which I read about, I think it was in a Wales Online article. I cited it a couple of times, or it might have been a BBC article. It was a site where some of these horrific rapes occurred. But the biggest thing is that Peter Griffiths himself, was a special constable with the police, as far as I know. And not only that, they're alleged to have been police. I've gone completely out of focus now. My webcam really doesn't want to focus for some reason. Yeah, they were on the... There we go. Am I back in focus? There we are. They were actually on the boat themselves. A lot of them were, and some of them were alleged to have been threatening the victims, saying that, "Look, you're not going to get anywhere. You might as well not say anything." Classic things that were told to the rape gang victims as well. And there's just such a rot at the heart of so many institutions. But as you say, all of this stuff, the government just calls you far right. They call you Nazi, racist, Islamophobe, whatever it is, as a measure to silence you. And the only thing is, I don't think people realize, is that when people say things like that now, it can carry, an unwritten, unlawful death sentence, because the minute people hear that, a lot of them, they want you dead, you know?
Yeah. I know. Well, this is the thing, and like this racial hatred thing, like, you know, is like I can remember when they wrote in the Public Order Act of 1986, right, which is what a lot of people get arrested for, right, for so-called inciting racial hatred. It says in that law that the truth is not a defense, right? Because when they were writing these laws up, I'll explain this now to you, right? When they were writing this law up, they wanted a law that was group libel, right? So that it would be an offence to libel a group, to say, oh, this group of people commit a lot of knife crime, or this group of people commit, you know, they wanted it to be group libel, right? But the response, how you win a case of libel is to prove that what you're saying is true, right? So they wrote into this law, the truth is not a defense, right? And at the time, I was in the BMP and we were saying, this is the most, you know, tyrannical thing that has ever happened, right? And now, fast forward to a few years ago, Sam Melia, do you know about Sam Melia's case? He
Yeah, I
was
know the
making
sort of vagaries of it.
he was designing stickers, right? He wasn't making stickers, he was just designing them, right? And they were like along the lines of White Lives Matter, right? That
Yeah.
sort of thing. And he was arrested and he was charged with all these offenses of inciting racial hatred, right? Now, he basically argued that they're not illegal, these designs and these stickers. If it's legal to say Black Lives Matter, then it's equally legal to say that White Lives Matter, right? So he goes to court, and the judge has directed the jury that even though these stickers are legal, if you feel that when he was producing these stickers, he was motivated by racial hatred, he is guilty of an offense. And he was found guilty and he was jailed for 2 years. And then you come out of prison, right? And when you come out of prison, you're on license for say you do, like, you get 2 years, you do half of it, you come out, then you're on license for the other year, right? That means they can
Hmm.
totally control you. They made him live in a hostel, even though he's got a wife and children, right? He had to
Hmm.
live in this hostel. They've just basically controlled him for another year as well. Not allowed to go to meetings, not allowed to meet with another member of PA. They've just totally done that to him. But the thing is the judge directed that jury that those stickers were legal, but if they felt that his motivation was hatred, he's guilty of an offense. That is the very definition of a thought crime,
Yeah,
right?
and it's complete kangaroo court, you know what I mean? It's just saying like, oh yeah, the truth is that it's not illegal, but we're going to convict him anyway.
Yeah. And it's like, so an African goes to Southport, stabs a load of children, but if you say the wrong thing about it, you could be done for racial hatred, right? Inciting racial hatred. You know, what are you supposed to do? You know, I've been arrested. I've had my house searched for this alleged inciting racial hatred a few times, and I've not been charged, right? I don't insult people. I don't threaten people. But like the one time I was arrested because I said, um, there was after like 9/11 that there was armed police at Cardiff Central train station, right? And I used to get the
Hmm.
train to work and they were there with little machine guns and everything. And then I see like Muslim youths walking past with rucksacks and they didn't search them or anything, right? So I said on a video, what's the point of having armed police there if they let a Muslim youth walk straight past them with a rucksack? What's the point then? What is the point of that? Right? And that was one of the things I said. And another one was some of the bombers that did the 7/7 attacks. I think one of them worked in an airport. So I said, if you can't tell which ones are extremists or not, then they shouldn't be allowed to work in airports. So those things got me arrested, got me held in custody for 3 days, right? My children's laptops were taken. My laptop was taken. My laptop and phone were kept for 18 months, right? And then I was told that there was no further action. And that was all I said. And like when I went into the interview, the solicitor said to me, if you say that you dislike Muslims, you're going to be charged. So you have to say you only dislike the extremist ones who would like to kill you, right? And I said, okay, fair enough, I'll say that, right? But I said, really, if I did dislike all Muslims, why should I be jailed for that? Right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying I do dislike them all, right? But if I was to say that in an interview, I would have been jailed, right? This is an absolute tyranny, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And basically, when you said that there were like so many lefties come in and all manner of different things, because you spoke about so many different things there, the police, the way that they act, just because you're exercising your right to protest, all of these things. You've mentioned as well that the really underhandedness of the police that I see, in my opinion, is that they won't just hassle you either. They'll often hassle your family and follow your family or follow. Do you mention that they were following your girlfriend as well?
Yeah. Well, she got the train to work, and this guy was following her, blatantly following her. And she said she got off the train, he followed her. And what they do is when they follow me, they don't follow me so I don't know I'm being followed. They follow me so I know I'm being followed, right?
Yeah, it's like
Um,
an intimidation. It's like
when I lived
intimidation.
I lived in Roos, right, for quite a few years, and I was involved in big demonstrations in those days. And they parked outside my house a van and a car for 2 weeks, right? And they did shift changes when the van would drive off and a new van would take its place, right? And I rang my solicitor because I went outside and said to them, "What do you want?" They said nothing. And I said, "What are you parked outside my house for?" They said, "None of your business, right? Nothing to do with you." So I got my solicitor to ring them, and they said, "It's a security operation with the airport. It's nothing to do with your client," right? But they sat outside my house. Literally, my house is there. They were about, and there was a field on the other side. They were like two houses up on the other side, and they sat there for 2 weeks, right? But if I drove off, I said to my daughter, "Let's go." When one of my daughters was living with me then, I said, "Let's go out and see if they follow us." And they didn't. I drove down to the shop. They didn't follow me. I went back home. They were still there, right? They sat there for 2 weeks, right? And they've done this to me loads of times, right? And this, what I was on about with my girlfriend, this guy followed her. She went into a shop and he followed her into the shop and he picked up a drink, right? She said she darted out of the shop. He put the drink down and darted out behind her as well, right? And that was going on. That went on for about 2 weeks, where they were just following her and following me. And what it is she's not political, so she's saying, "Oh, I don't want people following me. I don't want people following me. I don't want people coming to my work and all this." And I'm, oh, right. The thing is, that's the idea of it. That's to hassle her, so she gets on my case and makes me stop what I'm doing. This is what they do, you know? Like when I said I got raided, at that time I got raided for the inciting racial hatred when I said that they should be searched before going on trains with rucksacks. My children were small then, they had their laptops taken, you know? So my missus at the time was on my case then, going, "They've taken the girls' laptops." And you know what I mean? It's just drama. They want to cause social grief,
We'll go
basically.
from
I'm
basically
saying,
whatever the start of what we were talking about was, again, that particular things. You mentioned that the police were harassing when they raided and took your kids' laptops. It created a lot of friction between you and your girlfriend and stuff like that.
yeah, well, it was that was my wife at the
Oh, sorry.
time.
My apologies. My
They
sincere
took
apologies.
they, that's all right. They took the laptops of my children, caused murder for me with her because she was going mental with me because she wasn't involved in anything that I do. Like, like my girlfriend now is not, she's not political, but she's been followed by the police. you know, and she doesn't like it. You know what I mean? Well, why would she like it? You know, but the idea is that they want her to have a go at me, make my life hard, so that I give up doing what I'm doing. You know, but like what they don't realize is when they hassle me, it doesn't make me want to stop. It makes me want to do it more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when I was in prison, I was laying on a bed, right, day after day, and I was thinking, wait till I get out of here. I'm going to call a demo here. I'm going to call a demo there. And I was thinking, I'll fucking show them, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, this is the kind of person that I am. Like, I was in prison for defending myself. As far as I'm concerned, I shouldn't have been in prison, right? And like, all the times that I've been raided about 3 times, right? Not being done for anything, right? And I've had my computers taken, I've had my phones taken, I've had air rifles taken and kept for ages, you know what I mean? While they test them and all this sort of thing. And like, I'm not a criminal, but it's the hassle of it all, you know? And then you've got to go to the police station to get your stuff back and all this sort of thing, you know? And it's just hassle. And I don't break the law. I am legally demonstrating, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like for the, if our legal system wasn't completely bent, you could sue them, you know? But like, I know a guy that sued the police for trying to stitch him up, and it cost him 30 grand. But he got his money back eventually. But the Met Police dragged the case out for so long. People like us, we can't afford to sue the police, right?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So they can hassle us. Because if they do this to the lefties, there's human rights lawyers queuing up to work for free for them. You know what I mean? And they get compensation all the time. But like they can
Mm-hmm.
hassle us whenever they want, you know? And we're not doing anything wrong. Like, this is the thing. But like I'm not gonna stop doing things, you know? Although like now the people that are being arrested are on like this guy called Active Patriot's been arrested because he's I gotta watch what I say really because he posted up something where he said that he'd spoken to some people in the Pakistani community and they said that some Afghans had told these Pakistanis that they're waiting for the nod to do a terror attack, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I won't say exactly what it was. And he's been arrested and they slammed his front door off the hinges and
Mm-hmm.
he says they locked his house unlocked for 24 hours while he was in custody. And now he's banned from the internet and everything, you know?
Yeah,
And
it
it's
was
just like,
horrendous.
sometimes now I'm typing something and I think, oh, do I really want to say that? Because I could be arrested. I've got to think about everything I say and do because I don't want to give them an excuse to raid my house, you
Mm.
know? And it's like, I would never type anything illegal or racist, right? But I've got to think, ooh, could they, because sometimes they'll arrest you just because they want you to clarify what you said. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's an excuse. They think, oh, well, he said this. Well, because when they interview you, they say, oh, what did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? You know, and then most of the time it'll be no further action. But you've had your house raided, you've had all your stuff taken. You know what I mean? And it's just the hassle of it all.
Yeah, and
So
it's
you
other
know,
things then, like social stigma and stuff like that as well. You know, oh, Joe had his house raided the other day, or I had my house raided the other day. You know, people think, oh, what the hell's he doing? You know, like as if you're some big shot criminal or something like that. I was thinking, if you wanted my clarification, couldn't you have just given me a phone call? Couldn't you have just called me, said, what
yeah.
did you mean by
Well,
this?
they like when I got arrested last time, they took me down the lane. And I didn't even notice they just put me in a van and took me. And my girlfriend said all the neighbours were hanging out of their windows watching. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? So it was just like I didn't even notice that because I was more focused on what was going on, like with me. But like all the neighbours were there. None of them have said anything to me. but they were all there watching me be arrested for nothing, like, as well. You know what I mean? So, but this is the tyranny that we're living under. And like I
Hmm.
said with that thing, look it up. That in in the Public Order Act, the truth is not a defense, right? So if they arrest you for inciting racial hatred, because you can say, like, one time I had a website and I was listing, I wasn't saying anything, I was just listing all anti-white attacks, right? And a lot of those anti-white attacks now, although there's millions of them online, all the old ones that I used to that I put on this website, they're all gone. They've all been deleted from Google, right? But
Mm.
all I was doing was listing anti-white attacks. I had the police write to me. They wanted a meeting with me, and I went to the meeting, and I was told, even listing attacks like that, if they can interpret it that you're trying to incite racial hatred, you could be arrested. So they said, my advice is to take the side.
That's horrendous. And that's why I disagree with the whole thing about hate crimes and any kind of hatred, because it's completely subjective. You know, you're getting locked up or under suspicion or whatever it may be because of something that is completely at the whims of however a police chief or whoever else simply happens to feel that day. And there's no objective standard or anything like that whatsoever for that kind of stuff. And that's why I completely agree with the entire, classification. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. So we had a couple of connection issues this evening, ladies and gentlemen, but it's been okay for the most part. I think we're iron them out. But I can't remember exactly what I was saying, to be honest. More so to do with the fact that they try. Yeah. So they were getting you on things like racial hatred and all of this stuff. And I completely disagree with the classification of any kind of hate crime purely because it's completely subjective and it's based on whatever police chief, whatever court, whatever judge, whatever legislator happens to feel that day. And as we've seen, they've been politicized to no end, where you can't talk about things that are actually happening for the reasons that they are happening because they've been deemed as quote-unquote inciting racial hatred or whatever. It's the exact same thing that led to the cover-up of all the girls being, raped by rape gangs, all of this stuff, because it was going to, I think the other term they used was like inflame community tensions and stuff like that. But the way you said that the truth is not a defense, that's like, the minute you say that is like, well, what kind of justice system do we have? What kind of anything system do we have if the truth is not the thing that, it it's weird. The truth has been put on trial almost. The truth has been put on trial and convicted of being offensive, and that's where we are in this country.
I was just saying then when I got cut off that I had the website and I was listing all anti-white
Yeah,
attacks,
that was it.
and I was told I had to have a meeting with the police, and they threatened to arrest me because they said even listing attacks like that, if they can basically say and prove that I'm trying to incite racial hatred, even though I can just say, well, they're all true cases.
Mm-hmm.
What's your problem, right? Their problem is they think I'm doing it to incite racial hatred. They're going to nick me, right? And Sam Melia got 2 years.
Mm.
And that was his first ever offense. He's never been in trouble before. First offense, right? Now, any other sort of crime, you wouldn't be jailed on your first offense, right? You would get a suspended sentence, right? If you've never been in trouble in your life, right? Unless it's something really, really bad. You know what I mean? So it's like, obviously these prosecutions are entirely political, and so many people have been arrested. And, lately they've just been arresting loads of people, but high profile people, But the fact of the matter is, when they arrest you, is even if nothing comes of it, they can keep you on bail for up to a year, even longer, right? And they can give you conditions that you're not to use the internet, you're not to attend a demonstration, you're not allowed to associate with certain people. So they can basically just neuter you, you know? And then at the end of it, because what that time I got arrested for saying those things about Muslim terrorists, right? I was on bail for 18 months. I had to go to Cardiff Bay Police Station once a month. Every time I went there, they were like, "Oh, we haven't done the paperwork yet. Come back next month. We'll rebail you. We'll rebail you." Right? So then eventually I went there and the policewoman come out and went, "Oh, no further action." Right? And that was it. Just like dismissed me, off you pop. And she said, "Come back next week and you can have your stuff back." So I get my laptop back and my phone back and all that. But I'd already bought new ones, like, because when they take my laptop or take my phone, I'm not using it once they've had their paws on it, right? Because you don't know what they're going to put in there, you know? And I always think they could put something on there like illegal bomb manual or something and then come back in 6 months' time and nick you for it. You
Yeah,
know what I
exactly.
mean? You just don't know, like, do you? You know?
Or potentially even worse things, worse kind of material and all manner of other things. There's no end of things that they can put on there, you know what I mean?
Once they get their hands on a laptop or a phone, they can keep it as far as I'm concerned. If I get them back, I'll just sell them, you know?
Let somebody else
Because the
deal with the
ones on the
problem.
phone, yeah, and it was for one of those phones that slides up, you know?
Yeah.
And when they gave it back to me, it was all loose. So clearly they'd undone it with a screwdriver and
They
pissed about with the inside of it.
they
So
tampered with
that
it.
went straight. I just recycled that one, you know? I just like, once they take my phone, I'm just buying a new phone. I forget about that one. I'm not having it back when you've had your filthy paws on it, you know? Because you just can't trust them. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think this, yeah, but then we're always told then to trust authorities and so on, but it's like, what reasons have you given us to? You know what I mean? What reasons have you given us to?
Real criminals are taking a piss, right? All these gangs, right, are running riots, and the police are spending massive amounts of time just monitoring the internet. And it's 12,000 people a year being done for comments they've made on the internet. 12,000 people a year. So you can only imagine the workforce they've got of people that are just literally monitoring the internet all day. And I'll tell you this now, right? When there was that riot in Dover in 2016, I think it was, there was a massive riot in Dover, and I was down there, right? A load of people went to prison. I think about 80 people went to prison for it, right? It was a big anti-immigration demo. They bust in about 1,000 odd lefties from all over the country, all dressed in black, and there was murder. It was a 5-hour riot there, right? Anyway, when people went to court, it transpired that certain police officers were allocated to certain people that day. So it was like, you watch Marsh, you watch Jones. So I would have had one definitely, right? There were officers whose job was to make contact, to just get eyes on you and keep their eyes on you all day, right? Until you broke the law and they could arrest you, right? So bearing that in mind, I wouldn't put it past them that they haven't got people in call centers going into work. You watch Marsh today, watch his Twitter, watch his this, watch his YouTube, see what he's posting, and you know what I mean? And then they're probably going, "Oh, Saj, he's just posted another video. Oh, Saj, do you know what I mean?" Like, I can imagine that is what is going on, yeah. When they're arresting 12,000 people a year for that, you know? And like, real crime is just, they're not interested. You know, like, I know people who work in shops, the shops are getting burgled. They're phoning the police, and the police don't even say, "We'll send someone down to take forensic." They say, "Can you drop the CCTV up to the station?" They don't even send someone down to get the tape. They'll say, "Can you drop it to us?" Where years ago they would come down and take fingerprints and all that sort of thing. They don't even do that now. You know? It's unbelievable. Like, it's just our police force are now They are basically just political enforcers. That's
Mm-hmm.
what they are. They're not a police force anymore. They're there just to protect the government from criticism. And that's a
Exactly.
fact, Glenn.
I say
And
it.
to protect a multicultural society from criticism as well.
Yeah, it's exactly how I say it. It's that the police now are there to protect and serve has changed now, whereas it may have once point, and my camera's gone out of focus again. Whereas at one point it might have meant protect and serve the people. It's now clear that it means protect and serve the government interest and protect and serve whatever the current political narrative is. And that's why, again, you have people being released from prison in many instances, murderers that then go on to commit a murder the same day or the day after or whatever, child rapists being let out of prison early in many instances, child rapists being not even going to prison, being let off pretty much free to walk around the same communities as where their victims are and, continue to terrorize them just with their mere presence every single day. But you put out a spicy tweet. There was the British Transport Police put out an incident recently of some guy. I can't remember his name. He wasn't of native British descent. Let's just put it that way. But over a ticket dispute on a train, I believe it was, he strangled and assaulted one of the ticket master people. The ticket dispensers, and I think he got like 19 months or something like that. And then you look at Lucy Connolly, for example. She got 31 months for a tweet, which she later went on again to delete and apologize for. It's like, it's kangaroo. Kangaroo is being too generous in many instances, It's horrendous. And then exactly how targeted they are. You mentioned that kind of reminds me of what happened on January 6th in America, whereby we now know that there were so many plainclothes FBI agents in the crowd that were directly monitoring people. And you mentioned like there were police going down there saying like, oh, you were on Marsh, look out for anything you can get him for, you're on whoever else. But they'll never do that for the lefties, It's all completely one way.
They let them run riot, don't they? Well, just not long before the Southport riots, there was the Hare Hills riots, where they set fire to buses, and that's a foreign community there, and nothing happened there. There was no massive jail sentences. There was no wanted faces in the papers. There was nothing. It was a completely different show, that was.
I'm pretty sure the councillor, Mothin Ali, he was one of the ones, the Greens councillor that runs the place, he was one of the ones throwing rocks and rioting with them. Yeah. As far as I'm aware, He's
just said now that he reckons that some bloke walked up to him and racially abused him and threatened him outside the train station in London. And he tried to get his phone out to film it, but he didn't manage to. And the police are hunting this guy. I think it's made up. Because he's had a massive amount of publicity from it. There's all the London train stations are bristling with CCTV. If it happened, that guy's getting nicked, right? If he doesn't get nicked, then it never happened. And that's my theory. I know I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I think it's a damn good bet.
The only thing between a conspiracy theory and the truth at this point is around 3 to 6 months, I think. Maybe not even there.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a joke. But it's just like misinformation, this misinformation, that,
If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed. It's no secret now that the native people of Britain, in the respective countries that they call home, have been second-class citizens in said homes for a long time. The myriad of external threats that we face, in many instances, have outright taken over, ethnically cleansed, and colonized many of our towns and cities. But who have been the chief villains and chief architects of this story? Who is ultimately to blame for every town or city that has been taken over and colonized? Who is ultimately to blame for every case of religiously motivated paedophilic gang rape? Well, that lies solely at the feet, ladies and gentlemen, of our own governments. But as the native population begin to wake up, as the anger and discontent manifests more and more and more at their second-class treatment in pursuit of their ultimate eradication, the state has turned against them more and more and deployed every asset at their disposal against them, something my guest today knows all too well. My guest today, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Joe Marsh, a long-standing voice and figure in British and Welsh nationalist politics, having been involved in EDL, BNP, and Patriotic Alternative, to name a few of Britain's nationalist initiatives.
You know, I started out, I joined the BMP years ago when I was like in my 20s. One of the first people when they set up the EDL. I've been with Patriotic Alternative as well. A lot of people know me in South Wales because I'm probably the most well-known far-right activist in South Wales, you know.
Having seen firsthand the destruction of communities like Tower Hamlets, which you can only say have been ethnically cleansed and colonised, Joe, like many, has tried to warn people about the dangers that are being posed by mass immigration, these diversity and multiculturalism initiatives, much to the chagrin of a government that is profiting massively off of the destruction of their own people.
I went to work on Canary Wharf when they were building that, and I saw the state of Tower Hamlets and London is horrific. I saw a lot of crime while I was up there, you know, in some of these areas. It was all the graffiti was foreign, and it was just horrific.
Rival groups of foreign gangs warring on Britain's soil, the territory and the ever-lucrative drug trade that often result in innocent people and children getting caught in the crossfire. Not to mention, in many areas, how normalised these crimes have become. A 9-year-old girl getting caught in the crossfire of what appeared to be two gangs of rival Turkish people that were operating in London, like two rival Turkish gangs that were operating in London.
Albanians killing each other in the drug trade.
So really?
Yeah, there's been at least 2 murders in Cardiff of Albanians who've been killed by other Albanians over drugs. I walked down there one night and there's all these takeaways. And I went down to Tesco, went back, went down in the morning. There's all tape all around the Tesco, right? Like police tape. And on the floor, there's all circles drawn on the floor where they've drawn around, obviously, bullet casings, right?
The hypocrisy and seeming endless stream of left-wingers and liberals that are the first and loudest to champion the supposed success, utopia, that this multicultural paradise of Britain is, when in reality they live in some of the least diverse and most ethnically homogenous areas of the country. All the while, their people that are living in these areas could not be screaming for help any louder. A lot of the people then want to champion a lot of the left's initiatives like diversity, multiculturalism, all of these other things. You then look where they sort of live on the census data, and then you find out that they don't live in these areas. Where they don't live in they live in areas that are very predominantly ethnically homogenous.
Maybe they go down to the local corner shop and he's a lovely bloke and he gives them, you know, a bit of discount and this and that. And that's their experience of multiculturalism. And they think because of that, whole cities and areas need to be swamped.
How the police will do everything that they can to sow discord and create friction in your family to stifle your political activism. All the while, no crimes have been committed, and in many instances, these police are figuratively and potentially literally in bed with some of the worst people this country has ever known. A really good case where the police didn't do anything, it was the case of Ian Watkins, you know, prolific paedophile, you know, prolific Welsh paedophile, ex-lead singer of Lost Prophets, recently got stabbed to death in prison, and also Peter and Avril Griffiths as well. We've seen that the police are not only often just not willing to do anything, in many ways they're outright facilitating it, or worst case scenarios we've seen recently, potentially even involved in it.
We used to go to a pub called Bindle in Barry, right? And it's been knocked down now, right? But they were over there all the time. And one night, me and my mates, they invited us to a party on a boat. I got raided for the inciting racial hatred when I said that they should be searched before going on trains with rucksacks. My children were small then, they had their laptops together. Caused murder for me with her because she was going mental with me because she wasn't involved in anything that I do. The idea is that they want her to have a go at me, make my life hard so that I give up doing what I'm doing.
And some sage advice for the young men of this country who are going to be the ones tasked with saving it. For all of the browbeating, the demoralization, and the demonization of successive generations of nanny state government and hyper-vengeful feminists working hand in hand with them, it'll be down to you to save this country and ensure a future not only for yourself, but for your children and grandchildren and beyond.
If you've got a trade, if you're an electrician or a plumber or a chippy or whatever, right, you know, you're bulletproof there, right? This is how I can do what I do. We're living in such a tyranny here, you can be arrested for saying the wrong thing, you can lose your job, right? But like, you know, people need to get themselves a trade, and then you, like, because I could move to like Edinburgh tomorrow when I could get a job within days.
Well, it's something I wish that I had done growing up. No matter where you are, ladies and gentlemen, whether you live in a big city or a rural little Welsh town, you have a target on your back all the same. The target has been placed on your back by the traitors that we have in government. It's England today, it's Wales tomorrow. So if you want to grow up and prosper in the same country that your forefathers had and not have foreigners and foreign customs ruling over you, then stay tuned and be prepared to get active. This is Voice of the Valleys with Mr. Joe Marsh. Enjoy.